With the biggest story of the day, and that is the news that DeWanna Bonner is no longer with the Indiana Fever. It was reported last night that DeWanna Bonner had no intentions on returning to the Indiana Fever, and then the news broke today that the Indiana Fever had indeed.
She thought she could quit on her team mid-season and dictate her next move. She was dead wrong. This is the story of a shocking, self-inflicted career implosion that cost her a fortune, obliterated her reputation, and exposed an astonishing level of entitlement that sent shockwaves through the WNBA. We're witnessing one of the most satisfying cases of instant karma, as a calculated plan to abandon a team spectacularly backfired, leaving a once-respected player utterly unwanted.
She said, "I want to sincerely thank the Indiana Fever for the
career.
opportunity to be part of the Fever franchise. Despite our shared goals and excitement heading into the season, I felt the fit did not work out, and I appreciate the organization's willingness to grant my request to move on, particularly at this point in my career. I wish the Fever great success as they continue to build around this dynamic group of young players."
The news landed like a bombshell. A prominent player was no longer with the Indiana Fever. On the surface, her public statement claimed the fit didn't work out, a standard, polite farewell for any athlete seeking new pastures. But behind the carefully chosen words, a far more cynical and damning narrative quickly emerged. This was far from a mutual parting. It was widely perceived as an abandonment.
If another team claims her off the waivers, she gets her full salary. She gets her full salary if another team claims her off the waivers.
Mid-season, with the young Indiana Fever struggling to find their rhythm, and a generational talent like Caitlyn Clark navigating intense pressure, this veteran reportedly decided to simply quit on her teammates. The optics were brutal. A supposed leader cutting and running when things got tough, leaving Clark and the Fever to fend for themselves amidst their most scrutinized season in history. Whispers quickly swelled into a chorus, pointing to a singular, deeply personal motivation behind the abrupt exit. She wanted out, and she wanted to join the Phoenix Mercury, a team where her long-term partner plays. This was a move driven not by professional development, but by personal convenience, regardless of the cost to her team.
Thing that makes DeWanna Bonner look really, really bad. It makes DB look really, really bad. And it's the fact that she has told all other teams, other than the Mercury, don't sign her.
What unfolded next was a masterclass in professional miscalculation, demonstrating an astonishing level of entitlement that left the league aghast. When the Fever waived her, it meant any team in the WNBA could have claimed her off waivers, instantly securing a veteran player with championship experience. Crucially, that team would also be obligated to pay her full remaining $200,000 salary for the season. You'd think teams would be lining up for a talent like that, especially with such a low-risk acquisition, right? Wrong.
And look, I understand that's where she wants to go. Why didn't she go there in the summer? We know why, because she couldn't have got her max contract. And by the way, people are like, oh, they can give her the minimum. No, they can't. The Phoenix Mercury can give her a prorated $80,000 salary for the rest of the year. So she's only going to lose about 30K-ish. And she's going to lose about 40, 50K. Whereas they would have been only able to sign her earlier on. Well, they would only be able to sign her for nothing. Because again, we can't forget as well, the Phoenix Mercury cut Sevgi Uzun. The Phoenix Mercury have a bunch of players signed on hardships and a bunch of players that they can cut. Like they literally cap space magicked up. And as soon as cap space magics up for the the Phoenix Mercury,
in an audacious, almost unprecedented move, she reportedly instructed every single team in the league, save for the Phoenix Mercury, not to even bother trying to sign her. She was effectively acting like a superstar free agent, dictating terms and handpicking her next destination, despite being under contract and having just shown herself as unreliable. This wasn't just a bold gamble, it was a financially devastating one. By forcing herself into this single-team scenario, she immediately cost herself well over $100,000. Instead of her full $200,000, she'll likely settle for a prorated veteran minimum, roughly $80,000 if she signs anywhere. A player dictating terms to an entire league, forfeiting a massive chunk of her earnings just to control her destination. The sheer audacity was breathtaking, but her carefully laid plan was about to unravel. And unravel it did in spectacular fashion. The most shocking twist in this saga, the ultimate rejection came from the very place she was desperate to be. The Phoenix Mercury, the one team she burned every bridge and sacrificed a fortune to join, is reportedly hesitating to bring her in. Think about that for a second. She alienated an entire league and willingly walked away from a six-figure sum, all to force her way to Phoenix, only for Phoenix itself to look at the situation and think, do we really want someone who quits on their team when things get tough? The Mercury are currently playing surprisingly well, with a strong, young core that has genuinely bought into their system. They're winning games with players who truly want to be there, who aren't going to abandon the team the moment something doesn't go their way. Why on earth would they risk disrupting that hard-earned chemistry and team cohesion for a 36-year-old who just proved she's unreliable? The bitter irony is palpable. She torched her reputation and her financial security, only to find the last crucial bridge crumbling beneath her feet. Even her desired destination now has serious doubts about her commitment and the potential locker room impact. Her reputation was plummeting with astonishing speed, and the damning comparisons began echoing across the WNBA's inner circles. Critics were quick to draw unflattering parallels to notorious player holdouts and tumultuous exits, like Ben Simmons' prolonged standoff in Philadelphia or Jimmy Butler's contentious departure from the Minnesota Timberwolves. But her situation, many argue, is arguably far worse. Simmons and Butler, for all their drama, were at least top-tier players with immense trade value at the time of their actions. They wielded the leverage of undeniable current superstardom. This player, however, at 36 years old, is clearly on the decline, a veteran nearing the twilight of her career. Her actions reveal an astonishing level of entitlement, acting like she possesses the leverage of a league-altering superstar when her on-court production simply doesn't support it. This isn't a strategic power play from a dominant force. It's a desperate gamble from a player whose best days are behind her, prioritizing personal comfort over professional duty. The message sent to every other team in the league is chillingly clear. She's a player who will prioritize her own desires over the commitment to her team, a toxic presence that no locker room, especially one trying to build a winning culture, truly needs. But the damage went deeper than just her contract and reputation. The most heartbreaking consequence was the broken trust and the profound impact on the young players she abandoned. The hardest hit might be Caitlyn Clark herself. These young Indiana Fever players looked up to this veteran as a leader, someone who was supposed to guide them through the unprecedented pressure and intense scrutiny of playing for the league's most talked-about franchise. Instead, they witnessed a stark and deeply troubling lesson in abandonment. When things got tough, she showed them it was acceptable to simply cut and run, to prioritize oneself above all else. That's not leadership, that's a profound betrayal of trust. Clark, specifically, had openly expressed her excitement to play with this veteran, putting in significant effort to build chemistry with her in the preseason. For one of the first times in Clark's illustrious career, she was essentially told by someone she admired that they didn't want to play with her anymore. That kind of personal rejection has to sting, and some analysts are already speculating it might even contribute to some of Clark's recent struggles on the court, adding an emotional burden to her already immense professional one. Beyond the players, the Indiana Fever organization now looks foolish, having invested significant money, resources, and marketing campaigns into a player who abandoned them at the first sign of adversity, potentially hurting their ability to attract other veteran free agents in the future. This wasn't just a personal player-team issue, it challenged the very fabric of the WNBA itself. The league is still building its credibility and global reputation, and a veteran player quitting mid-season, dictating terms while under contract, sends a terrible message about professionalism and stability. If players can just abandon their contracts and force their way to their preferred destinations without facing real, tangible consequences, what stops a devastating domino effect from taking hold across the league? Why would teams invest significant resources in building culture, chemistry, and long-term rosters if players can simply leave whenever they're unhappy or a more convenient situation arises? General managers and coaches across the league are watching this situation with palpable concern, silently asking themselves, if she'll quit on Indiana when they need her most, what's to stop her from quitting on us? That's precisely the kind of volatile, unpredictable reputation no player, especially one vying for one of the limited 144 roster spots in the WNBA, wants to have. This whole situation sets a dangerous precedent, threatening to undermine the very concept of a binding contract and fundamental team loyalty within a league striving for greater respect and stability. The facade of this being a mere basketball decision was utterly shattered, revealing a far more mundane and frankly selfish truth. Despite her polite public statement about a fit that didn't work out, the real driver was clear: her personal life. Her desire to be geographically closer to her partner in Phoenix. There's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to be near your significant other, but there's everything wrong with lying about it, and certainly everything wrong with abandoning your professional commitments to make it happen. The timing of her departure is suspicious as hell. She conveniently waited until Phoenix had miraculously created the necessary cap space to acquire her before suddenly declaring she couldn't play for Indiana anymore. It almost screams of a premeditated, almost fraudulent scheme. Ride the wave of Indiana's money and unprecedented spotlight until Phoenix could afford her, then force a move. She essentially leveraged the Fever for exposure and salary, only to discard them when a more personally convenient option became available. This isn't just unprofessional, it borders on contractual manipulation. She's proven herself willing to sit out and lose over $100,000 just to force her way to Phoenix, demonstrating how little she actually cares about the game itself or fair competition at this point. If she truly loved to play and compete, she would have honored her contract and tried to make things work in Indiana. Instead, she chose personal desires over professional obligations, and the harsh consequences are now undeniable, serving a bitter dish of reality. So, the saga concludes with a clear and undeniable message. This player really thought she could quit on her team, manipulate the system, and still have the entire league begging to sign her. Reality, however, just delivered a harsh lesson about consequences, reputation, and fundamental professional integrity. Her spectacular miscalculation has led to severe, self-inflicted wounds to her career, her bank account, and, most importantly, her lasting legacy. The ultimate irony is that her attempt to exert complete control over her destiny has left her stranded and unwanted, even by the very team she burned every bridge to join. This entire ordeal serves as a stark, undeniable reminder that actions have consequences, especially when you abandon your team, prioritize selfish desires over professional commitments, and disrespect the integrity of the game. Sometimes, perhaps, karma works exactly how it should. What do you think about teams reportedly avoiding her? Do you believe she deserves to be blacklisted after what she did? Drop your thoughts below.